What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Hey guys, training camp is just 1 week away. The Giants will report for practice, I believe next Monday, take the practice field for the first time next Tuesday. Really exciting stuff, and I can't wait to see it. I'm really jazzed up about some of these rookies that are going to be taking the field. I'm excited for some of these position battles, who's starting at right tackle, who's starting at CB2, all of that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, the number one most important position in all of sports is the quarterback position. What's going on with New York Giants starting quarterback Daniel Jones? Well, we actually got a pretty positive update on his injury recovery this week. I believe he was on Chris Sims and Phil Sims' podcast, the Sims Report or something. I forgot what it's called, but he spoke to those guys on a podcast and discussed his injury and said he's doing pretty much everything. He's running, he's cutting, he's jumping, he's ready to go and should be medically cleared for the start of training camp, which is pretty big news for the Giants. You know, there was question early on when he suffered the injury back in November, would he be ready for week 1 of the upcoming regular season? Well, that's absolutely a given at this point, and he might even be ready to take the practice field for the Giants' first training camp practice, which is big news. Having your starting quarterback in place for the entirety of training camp is very important as the Giants install different changes to their offensive game plan and, of course, start to gel that chemistry that's going to pay off in the long run. So in today's episode, we want to react to that news and kind of just talk about what our expectations might be for Daniel Jones and the quarterback position and some of the causes for concern that we might have and some of the reasons for excitement as Daniel Jones goes on his comeback trail this upcoming season. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your initial reaction to hearing that Daniel Jones is running, he's cutting, he's back almost to full strength just ahead of training camp?
Listen, I mean, this is great for just the Giants in terms of if they want to win a lot of games this year, they need to have their quarterback healthy. I know a lot of people are on the fence about Daniel Jones, and look, this is probably, I wouldn't even say probably, it absolutely is the last year for him to prove that he can be the long-term solution here. We've seen the Hard Knocks kind of episodes. We've seen the Giants talking to the Patriots about the 3rd overall pick. You got to get the sense that the Giants, were considering moving up if they had the opportunity to, but obviously did not. Now, the question remains, what do we need to see from Daniel Jones to convince us, like, okay, this guy can be our future? So I know it's year 6. We really haven't seen the upside we really wanted to. We know he's got some decent arm talent. We know he can run. We know he can do all the athletic things tangibly. Like, the guy is fantastic, right? Like, he's got everything you want in a franchise quarterback. Even intangibly, he's there. He's the first one in, the last one out. He has all of the traits that you're looking for to become a star quarterback. The problem is the most important thing. It's the most important thing. There's two parts of the equation here. The offensive line, I guess you could say 3. The receivers and progression through your reads. And really, it's just pre-snap information, collecting it, understanding what opposing defenses are trying to do. And Jones has struggled with progressions, getting through, his reads, vision, identifying open receivers, keeping his eyes up and not dropping them, and, not taking bad risks. I mean, it's okay to take risks, but if you're going to take risks, throw the ball downfield, take some shots to your speedy receivers. Don't throw little button hook routes and get picked off for pick sixes. Like, if you're going to take the risks, go balls deep. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I got to say about it. But if you're talking about Daniel Jones right now and his development in training camp, he's putting all the work in. For a fact he's the first guy. He's the first guy there. He's doing everything he can to be ready. We've never criticized his work ethic. I think that we can kind of stand by that. We've never criticized the guy's ability to get in the damn gym and do what he's got to do to get better. He just hasn't gotten there, and there's a lot of different equations, a lot of different variables in this equation that have played a part in his demise at times. No, I still do think long-term the Giants probably go in a different direction after the 2024 season. But Anthony, I'll ask you this. What do you think he has to do this year to show that he's worth a $46 million cap hit in 2025 and a $56 million cap hit in 2026? What does he got to do to tell Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, I can be the guy that leads us down the path to victory, to a Super Bowl? Because that's the goal. You're not going for a wild card appearance. You're going for a freaking Super Bowl. You're going for knocking off Jalen Hurts in the championships, in the championship game, the semifinals. You're going to beat Patrick Mahomes. You're going to beat Brock Purdy. Can he be that guy? What does he got to do to prove to you that he can be?
First and foremost, he needs to win football games. And I understand, clarification, wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. They are a team stat. But A quarterback that wins more is a quarterback that finds more success, and usually if the quarterback is playing well, the team is winning as a result. So the first and foremost thing that Daniel Jones needs to do, that Brian Daboll needs to do, and that Joe Shane needs to do, since all of these guys are technically playing with their backs against the wall, they have to win football games this season. No longer can the Giants stumble their way to a 6-11 record, right? They went 9-7-1, they won a playoff game. That should have set the bar of expectations higher for the subsequent 5 years for the New York Giants after they beat the Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round. Unfortunately, major regression the following season, 6 wins and 11 losses. Daniel Jones only played in 6 of those games, only won one of those games. Now this season, Daniel Jones has to do 2 things. He has to win football games, but he can't do that unless he stays healthy. Daniel Jones needs to play 17 games this season. He needs to be healthy week in and week out. If he gets injured, we've talked about this before, Alex, even if it's a minor injury, the Giants have cause to pull him from the lineup unless he's playing great football. They have cause to pull him from the lineup for the rest of the regular season because of the injury clause in his contract. Let's say he has some sort of stinger in his neck again, right? That was a problem that he had for a few weeks last season. Well, if he gets hit the wrong way in his neck while having a stinger, how serious does that injury become? Will he need season-ending surgery again? If he has season-ending surgery, he won't be able to pass his March physical. The Giants won't be able to release him if they so choose to in the offseason. So Daniel Jones has to do many things this season in order to maintain his starting position. Chief among them is winning football games, but second to that and paramount to the rest is staying healthy. And obviously, both of those things come in tandem with playing good football. The Giants will win more games, and Daniel Jones will win more games if he's playing good football. And if he's playing good football, he's probably protecting his body well, and he's going to keep himself healthy. So all of those things, they play in one another. They tie all together in. And when you're looking at this upcoming season for the Giants, again, Brian Daboll needs to stack wins. Brian Daboll had a lot of criticism thrown his way during the 2023 season for the poor performances at quarterback, for the stale offense that he led. Brian Daboll was hired to be an offensive guru, to bring a great offense to New York, and so far, he hasn't necessarily done that. In 2022, we saw flashes of a great offense, and the Giants went on to win a playoff game because of it. But last season, the offense was historically bad at times during the regular season. It was very painful to watch, as we all remember. Now, this upcoming year, it sounds like Brian Daboll is going to be calling the plays as the head coach. What's his temperament going to look like? Is he going to be running over? Is he going to be screaming at refs and coaches once again and pointing fingers? Or is he going to be more relaxed while calling these plays and leading a better offense? Brian Daboll needs to lead a better offense, and if he does, if he calls the plays and leads a better offense, Daniel Jones will find more success as a result and hopefully play well enough to reconvince us that he is a franchise quarterback and keep his job. He's got to put up like 3,500 passing yards. That should have been the gold standard after that 2022 season. He put up a career high 3,520, I believe it was, but he only had 15 touchdowns. I'd like to see him throw for at least 20 touchdowns this year. I do think there is an argument for if you are a quarterback that's middling, even if you're a good quarterback, like Daniel Jones, he has shown 2022 he was a good quarterback, but if you're middling and you're not a great quarterback and you're not going to be able to get over the hump with that quarterback, there is reason to move on from that quarterback. Look back at Alex Smith. Alex Smith took the Chiefs to a playoff game, actually to multiple playoff games, was going on playoff runs year in and year out, had a really good final season with the Chiefs. They went ahead and drafted Patrick Mahomes anyway, moved on from Alex Smith while he was still playing at a high level and put in the highly touted drafted quarterback that they found in the first round. So again, if Daniel Jones isn't playing at a really high level, there could be an avenue where the Giants say, hey, we're going to draft his successor. Maybe we keep him for another year even. But if he's still middling and he's not a great quarterback anymore and he's only good or just okay, we can't continue to justify paying him like he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. So because he's making such a high salary, the expectations have raised very high for Daniel Jones. Like, he has to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in order to justify that salary. And if he isn't playing at that high of a level, yeah, there are going to be a lot of tough conversations in the 2025 offseason, especially depending on how many wins the Giants do or don't get when Daniel Jones is on the field. Another thing to keep in mind, Alex, the Giants won those games that they won last year without Daniel Jones in the lineup. He contributed one of the wins. Tommy DeVito contributed 3 of them, and that leaves 2 wins that Tyrod Taylor contributed. All of those other quarterbacks won more games than Daniel Jones, and again, it's a team sport. There were a lot of different factors going on holding Daniel Jones back, but let's say a similar situation happens this year. What if he plays the first 8 weeks of the season, gets banged up, and misses a couple games, and Tommy DeVito goes on another Tommy DeVito streak and wins 3 games for the Giants? Are you really taking Tommy DeVito out of the lineup, putting Daniel Jones back in once he's healthy? if you're winning more games with Tommy DeVito each time he takes the field, you have to start having difficult conversations. So again, chief among all of the objectives for Daniel Jones this year is to win football games. If he's playing well, they will be winning football games, but they just need to win more. Because if they start losing, Brian Daboll is going to have to make decisions for himself and his own job security, because he knows if the Giants lose too many games this year, he's going to get fired. And I don't think he's going to allow himself to get fired because he's sticking by his starting quarterback. Daniel Jones has to be the catalyst to winning games. Again, the offensive line needs to protect him. The playmakers need to get open. The defense needs to hold strong so that Daniel Jones can win these games. All those things are true, but at the end of the day, the quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. It can absolutely dictate whether or not a team is winning and losing. And if Daniel Jones is playing at a high level and winning games, he'll keep that job. If the Giants are losing games, whether it's because of him or if it's because of a ton of factors, he's probably going to get pulled from the lineup and ultimately cut. But that's really how I see it. Wins are paramount. It is a wins and loss business in the NFL, and Daniel Jones just needs to prove that he can be a winner. Make some third and long throws, as we've seen conversations about on Twitter recently. Make some third and long throws. Make some clutch plays in the fourth quarter. Stack those wins when your back is against the wall, and that's ultimately going to be his key to maintaining his starting job.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now, I think the point you made before about Brian Daboll, that's where I kind of want to harp on. And Brian Daboll, this offense has to live and die by him this year, right? It's been and look, even if his offense has been being run through Mike Kafka, the Giants hired Brian Daboll for one reason. It wasn't because he's good at coaching linebackers. It wasn't because he's good at coaching offensive linemen. It's because he's great at coaching quarterbacks, and he's great at calling offensive plays. That is why they hired him, because the Giants' offense before Brian Daboll was one of the worst in football. You know what it has been with Brian Daboll? One of the worst in football. So where do you go from here? It has to live and die by Daboll's hands. And right now, this is his job this upcoming season as the play caller. What do I expect from Brian Daboll? I expect the Giants to be very aggressive. I expect them to be the exact opposite of what they've been the last couple of years. This conservative offense, they tried to do more downfield-centric kind of play calls during the second half of last season with Tyrod Taylor in the mix here. But this is the year where you say, we got Jalen Hyatt, we got Malik Neighbors, and we got Darius Slayton. 3 guys who any team would probably be starting as their primary kind of 9-route guys. They're flyers. I mean, of course, Neighbors can do a lot more than the other 2. But you're talking about an offense that now has 3 players who can utilize elite speed and athleticism to exercise route concepts downfield. If they do not exercise route concepts downfield, this team is going to be bad because their offense is built to be explosive. You know what I mean? This offense is built to be a pass-heavy offense. Saquon Barkley is no longer here. This is not going to be the Saquon Barkley show. This is going to be the throw the freaking ball downfield in medium and long routes. That's what that has to be. Brian Daboll's hand has to be in this offense. And listen, this is what he did with the Bills. He said, Josh Allen, we know what kind of mentality you have. Your mentality is you want to be a gunslinger. You want to throw the rock. You want to be aggressive. Look, you're going to throw some interceptions, sure, but you're going to score a lot of points doing it. And the Giants, they turn the ball over and they don't score points. So it's like, I'd rather turn the ball over and score a lot of points than the opposite, which is what the Giants have been doing, turn the ball over a crap ton and don't score at all. So, if you're Daniel Jones and this is your chance to do it, do not play conservative football. Do not throw the ball for 2 yards on a 3rd and 7. Do not do things that are going to hurt your team. Be aggressive. I don't care if he throws interceptions, as long as he's being aggressive and trying to be the best he can be. Because the version of Daniel Jones that we've seen in the past is not the version of Daniel Jones I want to see anymore. I want to see the guy that has nothing to lose. I want to see the guy that has a chip on his shoulder. I want to see the guy that wants to actually be great and not try to play behind this system as a robot who is trying to do every single thing perfect. Football is not a game of perfection. Football is a game of momentum. You know what I mean? And if you can deliver momentum and you can score points, if you score 35 points, I don't give a shit if Daniel Jones throws 3 interceptions. You know what I mean? That's the truth. If he throws an interception, 2 interceptions a game, and we're scoring 25 plus points a game, that's better than what we've been doing the last 5 years combined. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's kind of where I sit right now. Be aggressive. Let it fly. Just play football, man. You don't got to be perfect in everything you do. I think sometimes Daniel Jones tries to be too perfect because of all the criticism and all the changes in coaching schemes and all the different things that are impacting him. Let that thing rip. Take chances. Be aggressive. Be a gunslinger, because that is what Brian Daboll's offense lends itself to. That is what Brian Daboll's offense is built on. aggressiveness, not conservative play style. That's kind of what Tom Brady's offense was like, more conservative, smaller throws, perfect route concepts, perfect pre-snap reads, information, just kind of him being the general of that offense, and everything was pitch perfect and conservative in a lot of ways. This is not Brian Daboll's system. This is let it fly, let it rip, take chances, let your receivers make the plays. Put the ball where it has to go, and your playmakers will do the rest. That's where I think Daniel Jones has to be this upcoming season. I don't give a rat's ass if he throws interceptions, because this is everything. He has to ball out. He's got to leave it all on the football field this year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I need to see him take more chances. We've seen that. I mean, we've praised him many times on this show, Alex, over the past several years about how accurate he is as a deep ball passer. He throws dimes when he throws downfield. Like, when we've been calling him Danny Dimes for the last few years, it's because he's throwing like 40-yard bombs on pinpoint accuracy downfield. We've just always complained about the lack of volume of those plays. Why doesn't he throw those plays more? Is it based on him? Is it based on, we used to think Jason Garrett was holding him back and not allowing him to take those deep shots? But with Brian Daboll, known as being such an aggressive play caller, hopefully this year he calls the plays and he forces Daniel Jones to get out of his comfort zone and rip that ball downfield and show off that great deep ball accuracy. And again, I think a lot of it had to do with the playmakers that he didn't have at his disposal. Now he does. Jalen Hyatt, 9 routes, like you said. Malik Neighbors, post routes, corner routes, everything deep downfield. All those guys excel at those routes. So I really do think we're going to see Daniel Jones be more aggressive, push the ball downfield, and hopefully this Giants offense creates a lot more explosive plays as a result, and Daniel Jones improves his performance as a result. So also, one other tidbit of information that rung to my mind, Alex, as you were talking about the differences in Brian Daboll's offense. One thing that I saw on social media recently, I think it was on Twitter, I saw a former coach who used to work with Brian Daboll used to work with Andy Reid, rather, and the Chiefs, quote tweeted a clip from Hard Knocks last week where Brian Daboll was throwing some plays on the whiteboard and having the quarterback prospects recite those plays to him. This former coach, again, don't remember what his name was and can't find it right now, but this former coach basically said, yeah, I've never seen any of these concepts in an Andy Reid playbook. This is not Mike Kafka's offense. This is Brian Daboll's offense. So whether that means over the last couple of years, Mike Kafka has been running Brian Daboll's offense, or maybe it means that Brian Daboll is taking more control this season and planning on calling plays. This former coach that used to work for the Chiefs was saying what he was showing on that whiteboard in that meeting with Drake May during the Hard Knocks episode. That was Brian Daboll's Buffalo Bills / New York Giants offense being put on that whiteboard. So I thought that was a pretty interesting takeaway, and it could foreshadow the fact that Brian Daboll will indeed be calling plays this upcoming season, which again is something that you and I are both really hoping for, and we think could be the catalyst of success for this Giants offense with Brian Daboll calling the plays and Daniel Jones back under center. So that was one interesting takeaway that I had, but overall, I do think a lot of the success of Daniel Jones relies on others, unfortunately. It relies on how well Brian Daboll calls these plays. It relies on how well the pass protection holds up, and it does rely on how healthy his playmakers are, because we agree. He's got a great group of playmakers now, at least in the receiving game. A lot of weapons to throw the ball to. Will they all stay healthy? That's going to be a big question mark, and it's going to be a really important variable in the success of this Giants offense. So I do have lower expectations for Daniel Jones than a lot of fans. I think you do too. I don't expect him to be this superstar this year, but stranger things have happened, and we have seen those flashes in the past, and we have seen him will the Giants to victory, even as recent as last year, week 2 versus the Arizona Cardinals. That game looked like it was dead in the water. Somehow, he pulled the Giants out from the fire and willed them to victory in the second half of that game. We just need to see that more often. That second half that we saw in Arizona, why can't that be a weekly thing? Why can't that be every single half that he plays? That's what we need to see. And hey, who's to say that this year he doesn't show up and show out and play that way? I'm not going to put it past him. It's totally possible. Am I confident in it? Am I a year 6 leap believer in Daniel Jones? Do I think he's going to go out there and ball out? Maybe not, but I'm going to hold out hope because I'm a fan of the New York Giants. So I'm hoping that Daniel Jones does light a fire under Zona ass and go pick up some wins and make some awesome plays this season for the New York Giants. But Alex, training camp a week away. Daniel Jones should be on the practice field. Any final thoughts and takeaways from that, and anything that you're going to be keeping an eye on as we get into training camp with Daniel Jones hopefully under center from the start?
Yeah, I mean, look, the more time he gets, the better this team is hopefully going to be. Drew Lock has already made it clear that he is Daniel Jones' backup, and he just, wants to work with Brian Daboll and be that option. It's a 1-year contract. I think the Jets gave Tyrod Taylor a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So, I kind of feel as though this Giants team, and look, this team is really young. You see the secondary full of inexperience, right? Full of young players. The offensive line, full of young players. I mean, Evan Neal, we'll see what happens there, but John Michael Schmitz is obviously a key young player there. I think that, they brought in some veterans in John Runyon, obviously Jermaine Illuminor, and they have a lot of young depth. Josh Azudu and, Marcus McKeffin obviously being primary options off the bench. And then, the receivers, Wandale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Malik Neighbors. These guys are all really, really young. This team is being built on the foundation of youth right now. Getting these guys experience is the most important thing. I'd say about year 2, year 3, that's when you're going to see a lot of these players take that big jump forward. Not to mention just drafting Tyler Nubin to replace Xavier McKinney. That's a huge difference. Kayvon Thibodeau still going only into his 3rd season. I think this team is really young. I think they have a lot to prove. I think they have a lot to do. We're still rebuilding. I still view this as a rebuild right now. I don't know if you have a differing opinion. I think you probably also are on the same boat as I am. I think this is a rebuilding team. I don't think that we're necessarily a championship contender this year, but I think that we are laying the groundwork to have a competitive chance over the next 5 or 6 seasons. It depends on what happens at quarterback. It depends on how some of these linchpin pieces develop, but you have Brian Burns on a 5-year deal, Andrew Thomas on a 4 or 5-year deal, Dexter Lawrence on a 5-year. You have all these guys locked up for the next 4 or 5 years, not to mention multiple rookies with, their 5th-year options too. This team is positioned to win in the next 5 seasons, right? That is going to be the most important thing. How can we position ourselves best to win a championship in the next 5 years? Because that is what these contracts for our best players kind of match up with. So that window, Joe Schoen has situated the window. The window's there. Now it's a matter of finding the most important piece of the equation, the quarterback. Is Daniel Jones that guy? He has a lot to prove, as I said before. I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comment section about what he actually has to do on the football field to justify staying here any longer. It's been a long journey going to year 6 now. It's now or never. And, we've been saying this for the last 2 years. We thought it was now or never then. But now it really does feel as though this is the last string, man. He's got to perform. Otherwise, it's going to be sayonara.
Yeah, totally agreed. I'm sure that the comment section will be very civil, productive discourse, a lot of friendly comments, and a lot of happy, smiling faces, absolutely, as it always is when we talk about Daniel Jones on this channel. But I'm intrigued to see what you guys are thinking down below in the comment section, regardless of how the temperament of those comments might be. But it's going to be interesting. Again, training camp next week. We're really excited to cover that. And, of course, any updates that we get, training camp position battles, any maybe unfortunate injuries that occur, or any exciting highlights that we see, you can follow all of that right here on the Fireside Giants podcast, but also on our social media channels. Make sure you're checking that out because all of those training camp highlights, the Tommy DeVito slow-mo throws, the Daniel Jones taking off and scoring, or Malik Neighbors making one-handed catches, make sure you're tuned into the Fireside Giants Instagram because all of those highlights, they're going to be right there. So that pretty much wraps this one up. Make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.